Hello and welcome to the interview. My guest is Alhaji Bekai Malik Sose, 78-year-old retired senior superintendent telecoms engineering at the Post and Telecoms, later on Gamtel. He, apart from his work as a radio and telecommunications officer, is author of several books. One of them is a professional career guide in engineering. He also wrote his own biography, an autobiography of Alhaji Malik Sose. He wrote The Gambia Travels and Tourist Attraction, Islamic Literature, as well as the story of Manding, Madu, Ndey, and Senegambia. Impressive. Welcome to the interview, Alhaji Malik Sose.
Thank you very much, Malik. Thank you very much again for making me avail in this interview, which is an opportunity.
Pleasure is mine. Let me begin with the very important question. It's been a long time I have an elderly person like you on the interview. And for me to ask you to recall in your early days will be like asking you to paint a picture of how bleak Banjul was with those little street lights we used to have with lights shaped like the heart of an old man. Now we have something completely different. But just for a rewind, tell us your early days. 78 years is a long, long time.
Oh, it's nice to remember the early days, especially during the war in 1939, when the whole country was off light, and we used to hide our lights under the under any kind of shade, because it was not allowed to put on any light, and light were often 1939 to 1945, when the war was ended, and we were rounding all over Banjul, you know, with joy and everything, because then light was then restored. And then light was, the power station was on the education department, under a big hole. And I remember my namesake, Al Bekai Njai, the father of Asan Njai, was the chief engineer on those machines, those dormant machines. I can still remember that. You know, and Uncle Njai, who was at Otoro, they were the plant engineers and technicians looking after the electrical part of the engine room. Thank you.
And then you went to school in Bathurst, of course.
Oh, yes.
Now Banjul.
Oh, yes. We opened the Albion School in 1945, just after the war in 1945. And later on, we went to St. Mary's School. We did our Standard 7 living certificate. My number was that it was then called the Standard 7 seal, which was first obtained by my uncle Alhaji Sheikh Nyang of Liman State. He first won the Standard 7 seal, and then later on Alhaji Abdullah Job won the seal, and then we followed the generation, and my number was 106. Standard 7 living certificate. We gained also an entry to Form 4 in high school. Thank you, Malik.
When did the idea of getting into the radio and telecommunications strike you?
Well, it all happens when we were young and we left school and we were walking around the beach and we came across Mr. Saunders. Mr. Saunders was a telecommunications superintendent, you know, responsible for the first automatic exchange, which was built in the Gambia, called Sauja, step-by-step Sauja. That was the first automatic exchange, which caters for about 300 lines. And later on, it was extended to 1,000 lines. That was in 1958. We came across him on the beach, and we discussed about employment. I said, come to my office and take a test. If you are true, I'll employ you. There and then we went, and he took us a test, and we passed the test. And then he started us with the telegraph room. We were almost 30 in numbers, but at the time of the course, it was only two of us that remained and passes the exam after 18 months.
You and who?
Myself and Mr. Ture. Mr. Ture's son is now a manager in Gamtel. He's responsible for the test board for telephone testing. Mr. Ture, yes, he was a Georgian. We were the only two people that remained on the badge. Mr. Rendell was there, who was at the education department. He was amongst the badge, and many other young people. But we were the only two that remained on the badge.
Tell me your experiences as a telecoms officer in the colonial period.
I have worked with the radio department in those days when Gambia was only manned by telegraph system, not on lasses, you know. That was only available from here to the prevent. All the administration was done by dot and lasses telegraph, you know, senior commissioners to all commissioners in the provinces. You know, that was the time telegraph was at its high peak, you know, because then there was no telephone link between us and the...
So messages were sent via telegraph?
By telegraph.
Very well.
We used to have batch of messages of 500 words and the like. And when we put on our headphones from 8 in the morning, it only at 1 o'clock that we put it off. In the days of atmospheric interferences, when unlike today when that has been screened off and all that, some of us have suffered from the plight of deafness and all that, you know. So that was the period of telegraph. We worked with ships and all that, you know. So the administration was run by telegraph to linking the province and the Gambia. Thank you.
These telegraphic messages were in codes.
Exactly. Yes, Malik, they were in codes. They were in codes. Some of them came in dot and dashes, some of them came in quotes, some of them came in secret languages, because that was applicable during the war time, because there was a special book made of secret languages, 5-letter codes that we take to decipher, you know, and to know where the enemy is and all that. That book was only handled by the chief wireless operator in his office, because that book was shared between Britain and all over the British colonies, you know, as secret war codes. Yes.
So this was not to allow the enemy to get hold of the message and decipher the codes. So
right.
the codes it has to be very special codes.
That's right.
Which you were only able to decode yourselves.
That's right. That's right.
Very well. And then let's look at the telecoms. You mentioned from 300 lines to 1,000 lines. How did this happen?
Well, this happened when we began with manual board exchanges, you know, by generating 17 cycles from one end to the other through operating board. You have to wind up a small generating motor, which is just like this Taylor's machine, and that generates 17 cycles to the other end of the exchange. And when it reaches there, it opens a porthole where you can see the signal coming in, or you can hear it, you know, through your ears, that the 17 cycle in ringing, so that you should be able to pick up the subscriber and to connect it with another subscriber. That was the manual board exchange time. And it not until in 1950 when this country entered into automation, and the first exchange was the Stauger system. And that goes on for a very long time, up to the 60s and 70s, you know, and that caters only for, the manual board caters for 300 lines,